Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and as I like to remind you each and every day, it expands our base. Words matter. Actions matter. And we are now engaged in a series of decisions about cabinet nominees for Donald Trump. There are several questions which need to be asked and answered. First, do we believe in the process of Senate confirmation? The answer is yes. There should be a full vote in the Senate on each nominee. Number two, should nominees be investigated by the FBI? The answer is yes. There is no reason why they should not be investigated by the FBI. There are those who claim the FBI has biases, but we have not seen that in investigations in the past, nor do I believe we would see them now. Candidates for the cabinet and for national posts need to be vetted by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Number three, should we permit private organizations to do investigations? The answer is no. It's sort of like inviting the fox into the chicken coop. No. This has to be done in a logical, precise way. Number four, is there a process involved in this where statements made by candidates for the cabinet and various offices can be vetted? That is to say, we need to know their backgrounds and their statements. Words do matter. One of the problems that we have with Donald Trump's nominees is not that he is nominating them. That is to say, that is his prerogative as president-elect and ultimately president of the United States. But there needs to be a full vetting process. It is remarkable to see, with almost all of the major positions to be filled, that there are challenges, there are concerns, there are issues. Once upon a time, in nominating candidates for the cabinet or director of the FBI or any major appointment, one of the things the president-elect or the president does is to figure out whether that cabinet potential member has the support of people within his own party. But this is not what is happening now. What is happening now is revenge. And I want to be crystal clear about this. Does anybody doubt that the nominee for FBI director, who has made clear revenge is his goal, does anybody doubt that if he were to be confirmed, that he would use the FBI for that purpose? He said he would. That should be an automatic disqualifier. And what about a candidate for Secretary of Defense who is accused of improprieties, from drinking to sexual misconduct? Well, you name it. Don't you think who leads the Department of Defense should be as pure as the driven snow as is possible? I do. There is a concern that I have, and I think it is shared by many, not over Donald Trump's right to do what he is doing, but whether it is right to proceed with some of the nominees. That's the question. And how we proceed as a nation is going to be critical. It was Richard Nixon's suggestion when he was elected that we should, well, he used a term from a young woman who was holding a sign in Ohio, bring us together. This is hardly a way to bring the nation together. Now, I say this fully aware that there have been numerous instances where potential cabinet members or FBI directors or CIA directors have been challenged, had their nominations withdrawn. We have even seen cases where candidates themselves have said, I don't want to go through this process. But the process of vetting those who will lead our nation and will lead our departments is critical. I have an uneasy feeling, and I say this directly to you out of deep concern for our nation. I have a deep concern when there is a candidate or a president or a nominee who simply says, I don't care. I'm going to go ahead and do what I want. Look, let's be clear. Presidents have a perfect right to surround themselves with people they trust. They have a perfect right to explain to the American people, I feel these are the right people. But if there are questions raised, well, then there should be a rethinking. There should be a reassessment. I would rather see Donald Trump come into office, even though there are those who may oppose particular policies, with a team that works for the American people, not a team that works for Donald Trump. That may sound like a harsh thing to say, but I believe it to be true. There is another question, which we addressed briefly yesterday, and that is the question of President Biden's decision to pardon his son, Hunter. An absolute, complete pardon. Well, I've talked with a few people and now understand the motivation. Donald Trump talks about the Biden crime family, that he's going to go after them, that he's going to get them. Well, let's be frank. Joe Biden loves his son, his only surviving son, and he wants that son to be protected from a vendetta, from bitterness, from anger, and yes, from being persecuted. Not prosecuted, but persecuted. I think what Joe Biden did may raise a lot of questions about the pardon power of the president. But I don't question Joe Biden's concern that if he did not pardon his son, the vendetta against Hunter Biden would have been incredible. These are real questions that we are going to debate and discuss in the days ahead. And I want to be blunt with you and tell you that the American people need to be alert. The Republicans in the United States Senate have to be alert. And I hope that Donald Trump will do the right thing. That will be the true test of his second term. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which, as I remind you constantly, is our goal. I want to point out that you can interact with me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. I welcome your comments, and I do consider what you have to say. And of course, my deep appreciation to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast. That's it for today. Around the Political World with John Rothman will be back tomorrow, and I can't wait.